Hello, welcome to Azure Crash Course. Today I would like to talk about the Azure regions. Microsoft Cloud has three sections, three products: Office 365, Azure, and Power Platform. Today I would like to talk mostly about Azure. Different regions. Each region consists of multiple data centers. Today I would like to discuss about data center, region, global resources, how to choose a resource, and availabilities. These are the multiple region across different continents, and this is the United States picture of Azure regions. Each one of those blue icons shows a region. A region can consist of multiple data centers, or a region might be able to have an availability zone. In this picture, you can see if a region has a diamond on it, means you can have a zonal resources there. And this is the network of Azure and some of those fiber. Geographies. Geography in Azure means a specific market for the Azure. And why we have geographies? Because, for example, you want to reside all of your data in the US if you are a US company and you don't want to have a copy of your data in a foreign country. Then Azure created geographies and put different regions in that geography, and those geographies have like a data residency and compliance similarity. And when you use a geography, then you're sure that you're still following that same compliances. But how we can choose the region? There are a couple of factors that you want to consider when you want to choose a region. First thing is, you want to use Azure for some resources and some services. Then first thing you need to consider is that service available on the specific region you want to deploy to? For example, you want to use Germany and you want to use API management. You might want to check this API management is available in the Germany. But second thing that you might think is it available on the paired region of like Germany? Geographies are a market that has a specific need, like compliance need or data residency need. Azure put different region in one geographic boundary, and all of those have a similarity about residency, compliances, and availability. For example, the China geography is not available for any other business other than Chinese business. How to choose a region? First thing is, you want to use some resources from Azure. Then you need to check if that resource is available on that region. The second thing you might want to check is that specific region probably has a paired region. You want to check if your designated resource available in paired region for failover. The second thing is this available to you? You might consider yourself a partner of a government that you need to have some compliances to create your own data center in Azure. Then because of those compliances, you might be able to use Azure Government. Or Azure China. You might think, can I have a server in Azure China? Then there are some limitations over there that you need to consider. The next thing is capacity and surges. You're thinking that moving 100 virtual machine to one of the region, and you consider to using a specific high tier SKU or Azure VM size. Then you might want to circle back with Microsoft and check if this amount of capacity is available, and you consider that amount of resources might have surges. Then again, you have to plan upfront that your servers might in a year or so become double, and then does that region have that capacity to accommodate those amount of servers or not? You might see this picture before. These are the list of the services that is available in Azure. As I said, you might need to check that resources are available on this specific region you want to use or not. The reason that I'm emphasizing about region is most of the resources using virtual network, and if you pick one region and you deploy your virtual network on that region, then you somehow put your first landing zone, and rest of your design would be a little bit constraints and compromised because of that first landing zone. But there are some resources that are not regional. Then you have more liberty of using those, like Azure DNS, Front Door, Sentinel. Let me show you some of those topics that we have from Azure documents. Like here, as you see, Azure has different location. As you might see, a couple of regions can reside in one location, like US East 2 and US East resides as a location of Virginia. You have a list of locations for different countries here. Then the region and geographies. You see the region of America or the region of United States. I mean, each one of these columns are one region. Like United States are one geography. United States geography, Azure government is another type of geography, and Canada, Brazil, and Mexico. The interesting part is data residency and sovereignty in US, as I expected it was in US. But for example, you want to use you're a Brazilian company and you wanted to put your data in Brazil South, but then you see, oh, there's a replication to US. Then you need to consider that one as well. The next thing is paired region that we discussed so far. You can see the list of paired region in Microsoft Doc. Like if you want to use France, the France Central and France South are paired region. The next thing was trust. You want to go to the Microsoft Trust Center and see the list of compliances for Azure. You can see other products compliances as well. For example, you're doing some payment processing, you're caring about PCI DSS, and then you're thinking, oh, okay, can I see the documents? May I share those documents with the auditor? Then you can download those, and you will see some documents like, then you will see some of documents like this one. That's the artifact of Azure. Okay, so far we discussed about regions, but there are other factors that we want to consider. Like we talk about geography, we talk about the data residency and regions inside of that data residency. But you might hear about, or you already heard about availability zone or availability sets, or what does those means together. Availability zones are physically separated location in one region. This separation is like creating an independence, something like power, cooling, and networking. Then you have a zonal services. Some services like IPs, like load balancer, can be a zonal services, and you can deploy a load balancer in zone 1 and another load balancer in zone 2. And then if something happened in zone 1 in that region, it's not going to affect based on the blast radius on zone 2. You have a multiple subscription, and you more see in more mature designs that they have a multiple subscription, and you want thinking, okay, the latency is the important part, and I deployed my web tier in a subscription of subscription 1 in zone 1, and I deployed my database server in subscription 2 and zone 1. But one thing to note is zone 1 across different subscriptions are not pointing to one specific location. Those are like more nominal names. Availability set. Vice versa of availability zone that you are saying that you deployed in one zone or one location in that data center that has a independence. In availability set, you are creating a logical group and saying that you want to have a different maintenance time, or in somehow you want to have in one region, to be better said, in one data center, you want to have the same independence that availability zone has, the same independence of power, cooling, and networking, the same independence in different fault domain. And then when you want to apply patches or do some updates and that needs, for example, restarting or creating some downtime, then you want to manage those update domains, that those update domains doesn't overlap high available services. Like in this picture, you can see and maybe have a better feeling what I'm talking about. Each one of those blue or purples are one virtual machine. And imagine those gray columns are a rack that is independent from each other based on those factors that I discussed. Then you see there is a 3 fault domain, and you design it when you create your availability set, and you have a multiple update domain, and update domain 0, when it's happening, it's not gonna do the same updates at an update domains 1. or one and two wouldn't happen at the same time of each other. That maybe create a downtime and impact your high availability services. To go to the more detail about the availability set, you see even the storage clusters are designed in a way that they are independent from each other. But consider this is mostly for managed disk, and I don't think that still there isn't going to be a requirement for using unmanaged disk. But if you're using a managed disk, then the storage cluster also is independent. The VMs are different fault domain. And when you create the availability set in the region, it's going to create something with this type or shape. Something happened. The blast radius of that, the impact of that issue, like I'm talking about like a hardware failure or power outage or tornado, depends on the event that happened. The impact can create an outage for your services, and that SLA increase as you use more like availability sets or having availability zone and having like a regional or like two region, like a paired region. But one thing in this shape that I don't like that might mislead you is it seems that availability sets sits in availability zone, but that's one or another. You can either have availability sets or availability zone. You cannot have both at the same time together. The next thing I would like to talk about is proximity placement groups. Proximity placement group is created just because of low latency services. You can have your availability sets or you can have your availability zone in one placement groups. And you can have even multiple availability sets or availability zone in one proximity placement group, or you can have a VM without have availability or availability zone in placement groups. But consider this: if you're using availability zone, you can only have resources that's sitting in one zone. You cannot have multiple zones. Then the uses of proximity placement groups with availability zone might not be a solution to use in like a production way. Proximity placement group itself is a resource. You can create it when you are creating your own. You cannot create the proximity placement group when you are deploying your virtual machine. Then you need to create it upfront and then use it during your deployment. Or if you're using the ARM template, you can deploy it in same deployment, but have the proper dependency for deployment. Okay, let me show you a demo about availability zone and some of the resources that is available in different zone, or I can call it better, zonal services. You can see that like Windows or Linux virtual machines are available as a zonal in different regions, and you can reach to this article by yourself and check on different resources, or if you want to use isolated app services, if you want to use like a different standard IP addresses or load balancer, which region has those zonal services. We were talking about the proximity group. You can go to this document and create your own proximity group from here, or you can create it from Portal. You want to create a VM. You have an option to choose using availability set, or you can choose availability zone. And always is 1, 2, 3 for having an availability zone. And so far I didn't see any other number like less than 3 or more than 3. Then you choose like availability zone 2 and then you deploy it. But one thing, interesting thing is here is you can create an availability zone, but still you can use the placement groups. The next thing is availability set. You can have an availability set that doesn't have a placement groups, proximity placement group to have like a low latency, like this one that doesn't have it, or you can have an availability set that do have proximity placement group. Proximity placement group can be very helpful when you have a web machine and then you have a DB machine, and at the same time you want to not having a compromise about the latency, and you want to make sure that Azure provision those two virtual machines as much as close as possible to have a like less than even a millisecond latency. Thank you so much for your time and attention.